I just don't want to gloss over
The trust fund.
the trust fund because I think it's one of the cornerstones of this debate. For 20 years or so, people have been paying more money into the system than has been paid out in benefits. Is that
In
basically it?
1983, the people that were working, the program was in crisis then. They weren't sure if they were going to be able to send checks out within a matter of months. The program had just dissolved to the point where they were having some significant, that was a crisis. And so people sat down and said, all right, let's fix the immediate crisis, but also let's look into the horizon and figure out what we need to do looking forward. The baby boomers were already there. It's kind of amazing to us when we listen to people talking about, oh, there's these baby boomers and we don't know what we're going to do. Well, they were already in their 30s in 1983, okay? So everybody knew that there was this bubble of people that was going to start retiring right around now. And so they designed the changes in the system at the time to bring in more money than they knew they were going to need in benefits at the point so that they could build up these surpluses in the trust fund so that they could draw them down as the boomers started retiring. I think of it as my kids' college fund, okay? I put the money in when they were still in high school, knowing that once they got to college, I was going to have to start drawing that money down. The fact that I'm now having to use it because they're in school isn't a huge flaw in the program. It was designed that way. And at the time, people sat down and said, okay, what's the safest thing that we can put the money in? At the time, the stock market was still up and down as it is now. Nothing changes there. They looked for the safest, most reliable vehicle to put the money in because they knew it had to be here for the boomers. What's the safest vehicle even today to put your money in? United States Treasury bonds. And that's why they put the money in the bonds at the time. Those bonds are backed by the full faith and credit of the United States, just like the bonds that are in my 401k plan or your IRA, or that are being marketed today to the Chinese and the Japanese and whoever else is buying our debt. Same instrument.
Those bonds piled up.
Exactly.
And soon we're going to
start redeeming them.
Start redeeming them. So that means taking money out of current tax revenues and other forms of money flowing into the federal government and using that to pay the obligations of Social Security.
It's exchanging one form of borrowing for another. The federal government borrowed that money from you and from me and from Jeff and from everybody else that's paid into the system, and now it's time to pay it back. That's all that's happening. So instead of owing it to me, they're going to owe it to somebody else because now I need to have it back.
Right. But in 2020, let's say, when they sit down and make a plan for the federal government for the 2021 fiscal year, one of the big chunks of obligation for every dollar that comes into the system is going to be paying to redeem that money that we borrowed from previous payers of FICA. And that's money that's not going to get spent on defense, not going to get spent on building roads and schools, not going to get spent on paying the salaries of federal workers. It's going to get spent on buying back those bonds. I just want people to understand where money's coming from and where it's going.
But then it's going to go to individuals who are then going to turn around and buy things. They're going to buy food, they're going to buy cars, they're going to buy clothes for their children. And so it's not like they're going to buy medicine. A lot of a senior's Social Security check, almost 30% of the average Social Security check goes to paying part Medicare out-of-pocket costs.